When you think of older action RPGs, several games come right to the top of your brain. The Legend of Zelda series is probably the first thing you think of, and then possibly games such as Beyond Oasis, ActRaiser, or even Castlevania 2. But what about Crusader of Centy, a horribly underrated game that was exclusive to the Sega Genesis? There's a reason why I'm bringing this up. It was the Genesis answer to Zelda. First things first, although the playstyle is borrowed from Link to the Past, that's about all that Crusader of Centy uses. It's an original game through and through. There's many reasons for this. The first thing, and the most important and innovative thing, was the pet system. But before I get ahead of myself, there is a story to the game, although it does get confusing in the middle until it wraps up near the end. Basically, ages ago there was a dark land that was inhabited by monsters. At least, that's what the humans called them, according to the opening scenes. They just appeared out of nowhere. Fast forward about 100,000 years. A boy turns 14 and gets his father's sword. Apparently in this area, hitting that age starts your training as a warrior. A warrior against what, though? The country is clearly peaceful. In fact, on the map, there's only really one human village. Every other town is inhabited solely by animals, and aww, bunny wabbit. Yeah. Anyway, you equip the sword, talk to a fortune teller, and bam, you can no longer speak the human language. But in a trade-off, you're now able to talk to animals. Interestingly enough, you go back to town and talk to your dog, named Mac. He joins your party, and you start on your quest to figure out what the hell is going on. Mac is only the first of about 20 animals that will join you. Each animal has some sort of ability that will assist you in your quest, and those pets can be considered party members, much like Final Fantasy has black and white mages, fighters, dragoons, and such. For example, Mac's not entirely useful until the end when he unlocks a few doors for you, but other than that, if you press the C button, Mac stops and any enemies that touch him are immediately paralyzed. Other pals include Chili the Penguin, who gives you an ice elemental with your sword, Leviathan, who allows you to swing your sword faster, and Dippy, who you can use to cross hazardous areas like poisonous lakes and rushing streams. You can have any two equipped at any one time, although the cat cannot be equipped but instead is used immediately, because she will just respawn you like an extra life. This can only be done once before you need to go buy her again. The other thing is that some pets will combine abilities. For example, equip Moa with a bird and almost all abilities are strengthened. So equip Moa and Leviathan and you'll attack 3 times as fast. You'll run even faster with Moa and Cheetah equipped. Throwing your sword with Moa and Inferno creates a larger, more powerful fire blast. If you equip Inferno and Chili at the same time, throwing your sword will look like it has a combined ice and fire attack. This is actually required at one boss. Experimentation is key to this combo feature. One odd thing about the pets is the sizes of them though. Most pets are scaled the same when you acquire them, so why is Leviathan so small when he was huge when you fought him as a boss? It's like he goes from being a badass boss to a small garden variety snake. I mentioned a few attacks, but let me elaborate. When you first start the game, the only attack you have is a sword swing, and you swing it so slowly it's pathetic. I guess that's what you get for a 14-year-old trying to swing his father's sword. Anyway, early on you have access to a training school, which you're required to pass for a more powerful sword later in the game. Once you get some coin in your name, you can get taught the sword throw, and let me tell you, you'll probably be using this more than your regular sword attack. First off, there's some decent range to this, saving you from getting hit with the poor hit detection. Second, just swinging the sword doesn't grant you any of the elemental attack bonuses, so equipping Inferno or Chili is useless if you don't plan on using the throw. For the most part, those are the 2 attacks you have access to. There's no magic in the game, other than what the pets give you as abilities, so although your attacks are limited, they do a good job of keeping your enemies at bay. However, the sword throw does make the game easy, as with doing it right, most enemies and even bosses will have a hard time hitting you. Sand animals give you extra features to the sword throw, like having it ricochet off of walls and even having it stick to items, the latter of which really isn't useful that often. Currency in the game is called Malons, and there's a very limited use for it. That's good though, because for some reason, in this game, it's hard to find. Most enemies will drop 1 Malon when you destroy them. Occasionally, you'll find bags of 20 Malons floating around, but there's a limited amount of those. Those are really the only 2 ways that I know of to get Malons. There's no real items to purchase in shops, so using this Malons is limited to learning the sword throw, renting one of 3 animals, in which case they stay with you until they're used, and buying a golden apple, which immediately restores all of your health and then gives you an extra point to your maximum life. Only one can be bought, the others are found in the world or gained every time you kill a boss. Another nice part of the game is the map. Basically, each area is combined by the map, in which you can travel to any destination you've already been to, skipping other areas you don't need to enter. It's something that's nice and makes backtracking a little less time consuming. Although the majority of the game is straight out action, there are a few puzzles to be found. At first, they start off easy enough, but quickly start getting a bit more difficult, especially around the desert level. Blue blocks can be pushed, but can't be destroyed unless the red block is touching it, which acts as a detonator. You need to touch the red blocks to these sandy blocks to destroy it. If you mess up, you'll need to leave the screen and come back to reset the puzzle. Later on, once you get to the Tower of Babel, you'll need to climb about a dozen floors, each with different puzzles. Some are easy, but others require a bit more thought. It's a nice change of pace from the action parts of the game, but seeing more of these would have been nice. It's nothing that's going to cause a stroke trying to figure them out, but the game won't hold your hand either. For example, to trigger a story event, you need to talk to this girl twice after talking to your grandmother to hear a story. This took me forever to realize. There's no clue about or anything that the girl had more information, and once you actually get to this part, the story starts getting a bit more confusing too. Basically, you get sucked up in a tornado that actually sweeps you back in time. You'll revisit several areas and find out how the areas actually came to be. You'll keep doing this until you end up in the center of the map. Here, you learn that this is where the monsters actually came from, and they're here only to get back to their home world, as somehow they were all sucked into the humans' world. The only reason why they can't get back is because some sort of evil spirit energy is blocking the portal. It has 5 senses, in which you fight in a literal sense, requiring a bit of thought. These boss battles are unique, but at the same time they are incredibly easy. Even the final boss has limited attacks, and once you figure out that you need to use Dodo to open up the eye to make it vulnerable, it's really way too easy to finish off. The graphics are very colorful and very detailed. Monsters themselves are brightly colored and look peaceful, but at the same time you know they're going to damage you if they hit you. The environments all look great, including the barren desert and the heavily wooded forest. One of the most impressive areas is the peaceful area laying above the Tower of Babel. This area is a special place for people and monsters that have come to terms with being non-violent towards each other. So it's almost like a version of heaven, which would actually make sense given the biblical reference to the Tower of Babel and then a blissful village. But there's a ton of grass, flowers, and the clouds look fantastic. Finally, we move on to the music. And hot damn, this music's awesome! The basic town music is cheery and upbeat. When you enter the school, it changes to something that makes it just feel like you're trying to learn something. It's kinda hard to explain. The beach has a nice theme that really fits the mood. And that's pretty much how the game goes. You enter an area, the music fits it perfectly. And best of all, the epic boss music. The music doesn't feature the normal Genesis grittiness, but holy shit, this music is freaking awesome! It's got almost a heavy metal feel to it, and when you're fighting the final bosses, it's there every time. As much as I really enjoy the music though, it would have been nice to have something different for the final boss. But I guess we'll just have to settle with the kick-ass theme one last time. Now, I keep praising this game, but there are a few minor flaws. One is the hit detection with your sword. Throwing it isn't really a problem, but when trying to swing it at your enemies, you have to be very close. And as I said before, the speed just isn't there. Meaning you may take damage before the enemy even gets close enough to your sword's arc. Once you get Leviathan, he'll speed up your sword swing, so you may use him a lot if you attack a lot of enemies. The controls can be a bit sketchy too. When jumping around, if you get too near an edge of a pit, you'll often just fall off of it, even if it looks like you're actually on solid ground. Even if you just keep running around, just getting close to an edge will often force you right off, and there's nothing you can do about it. One other thing I noticed was an odd glitch. I'm not sure if it was just me or if it's common, but in the Ice Dungeon, you enter an area when you start going down an icy slope. I had pressed start to change animals, resumed, fell off the side of the map, and instead of loading to the next area like it should have, I was stuck in this slide from hell. I had to reset the game, and believe me, this dungeon isn't one you want to go through multiple times. Crusader of Centy is a very solid action RPG that makes a good run for its money against games like Legend of Zelda. I might even go out on a limb and say it's top 10 quality for Genesis games. If you need something different to play, definitely give it a shot. You won't be disappointed. Final score? 9 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.